Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. Welcome to the evening segment Monday over here. It's UK time, which is like 5:40. We're like 10 minutes late. Wasn't my fault. Yeah, it was my fault. It was my fault. We're just talking about other bits and pieces. But guys, thank you for joining us this evening. We've got some a few bits and pieces of news that we want to talk about, and of course, there's some talk about a certain player called Martin Odegaard. I'm not even sure. Is that the right pronunciation, James? Odegaard? No, Odegaard. Odegaard.
As far as I'm aware, it's Odegaard. As far
Odegaard.
as I'm aware.
Okay.
I've spoken to him for the years and always tried to be as possible. But I have a little bit of an anecdote about later to tell listeners and viewers from a player I spoke to that played with him. So hopefully you provide a little bit of an interesting insight.
Brilliant. I'm back in school, back in class. I'm in the corner, making my way out. I'm here for a footballing lesson from these two wonderful people here, and we'll get into this segment on the evening, Monday evening, on the other side of this music intro. So see you just in a second. Yes. Welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. It's the evening segment. It's a regular fixture here. Just when I'm thinking the Easy Talk is the flagship. Oh, I don't know. I think Monday nights is probably quickly coming a rival to the Easy Talk every Friday. Anyway, guys, make sure you subscribe to Cannon Fodder TV. Hit the bell notification button so you can receive all the latest news right here. I've got Eltel, the original Godfather. Eltel,
Hey.
how are you, mates?
How are you? Yeah, rocking and rolling. Sort of, I've bounced back after Saturday.
And after Friday as well.
Yeah.
James, good evening to you, my friend.
Good evening, Alex. Good evening, Terry. Good to speak to you both again.
Absolutely. We've got some bits and pieces. And I'm hoping again, as usual, once James is on the show, we're going to be talking about maybe some up and coming interviews that he's going to publish. Breaking news right here. Let's get into the segment. And the first thing I want to talk about, and I've got to say, I don't. Let me just show you this for a second. Rivalries apart, I don't like to see and hear managers getting sacked. Unfortunately, Frank Lampard has been sacked only after 18 months in charge. And there is some talk about the former PSG former manager, Thomas Tuchel, is expected to replace him. But Lampard, 18 months in the job, has now been sacked. Again, guys, rivalries apart, I just don't like to see and hear managers getting sacked. And there's some news that he wasn't even allowed into the training ground to say goodbye to the players. And that was coming from Sky Sports. Do you guys want to say anything about Frank Lampard?
I do. I did read a quote from Ian Wright today, I think it was, that said he was very disappointed that managers were only being given 18 months. And, Frank, a bit like our own Mikel Arteta, is having to learn, the hard way. And I'm sure he would have turned things around. It's ridiculous that they don't give managers longer. And it's this constant striving for, pumping money, keep pumping it in. And if the manager doesn't come up trumps virtually straight away, then it's no longer a team game. It's a case of who can spend the most money and which manager can manage to sort of get a few trophies. Well, it doesn't work like that. And the sort of joy of watching a club is you watch them through the good times and the bad times. And we've seen that with Arsenal. We've been very lucky recently to have some wonderful times, plenty of silverware. And I would hate it if we had a situation like they have at Chelsea, where it's just a money game and managers come and go. So I do feel sorry for Frank. I think he's a decent guy. And any of the footballers that have been quoted say he's a decent guy. and I hope he gets a job in a club soon, basically.
Yeah. James, did you want to chip in on the situation of Frank Lampard being sacked?
Well, it's a sign of the times, first and foremost. It's a sign of the times, really, and the infrastructure upon which he operates. I know that Marina, who's high up in Chelsea, and viewed as one of the most high powerful women in world football. I spoke to an agent a couple of months ago that told me that she's very forthright. The inbox is always empty and the emails are always answered. And yes means yes and no means no. But I think Lampard only took the job because the chance may never come round again. And obviously 18 months is not a long time. It's roughly the same time that Unai Emery got. But also it shows how quickly things can happen in football. Harry Redknapp is on record by saying that he touted Lampard to Ipswich, and he met with Ipswich, and he had question marks about Ipswich because there was no money involved. There was no money to spend. And then again, Redknapp touted him to Derby, where he met Mel Morris, and Mel Morris was charmed by Lampard's ability, and he cut his teeth at Derby. But it's another sign that the sport is starting to eat itself, because all generations are brought up on certain managers, and I find myself, even as a football writer and interviewer, I found myself often going back in time and playing video clips of Brian Clough, Sir Bobby Robson, Ron Saunders, and just to hear what they had to say. And then you really realise that managers were managers then. Literally, you manage everything, and you are able to form a squad in your own image. And now it's very much not the case, and you wonder where it's all going to end. There's so much interest now, multi-layered interest within a football club, and it's not just simply the case of something happening on the pitch. It could be something that's happened off the pitch. So it's just simply the case of another sign of Simpson. Without sounding churlish, now we wait and see who the next one will be.
Yeah, the next victim. Oh my goodness!
It's funny you should mention Ron Saunders. There wasn't he the Aston Villa manager? Am I right in thinking that?
Was the Aston Villa manager?
Yeah, because I always remember when they won the championship, they clinched, or the final match of that season, they played Arsenal at Highbury, and I remember Brian McDermott scored 2 goals, and Brian Glanville in the Times raved about Brian. And shortly after that, because Ron was a bit of an abrasive character, shortly after that, Aston Villa sacked him. But because they'd won the championship that year, they went into the European Cup. And with Ron Saunders' team, the guy that took over, the coach, was actually really a black cab driver or a taxi driver. And he got, with Ron Saunders' team, the following season, they got to the Champions League final, or the European Cup final as it was in those days, and won the cup. So it belies the fact that actually it was someone else's team that actually won it. And it took Ron a number of years to actually develop Aston Villa until they were so good that somebody else could take them over. And the guy who took them over, the following season after winning the European Cup, they absolutely plummeted and sacked him. So that's a perfect example of how it takes a long while, or an appreciable while, 3 or 4 years, to actually build a top quality team if you start from scratch. And then once the team is then built, and it's a good team, a bit like when Arsene Wenger took over Arsenal, he inherited a wonderful back 4, back 5, and a good goalkeeper and so on. Therefore, if you link that with what's happened to Frank Lampard, he's not been given enough time. And I'm not really happy with football that is just played by the sort of rich, multi-billionaire owners. I want the football clubs to be part of the area that they're based in. And as I said, we win and lose as a team and a club.
But Terry, what do you think should be the natural lifespan of a manager at any particular club? 5 years, 7 years?
Well, that's a very good point. At Liverpool, they've always had a system of the boot room team coming through until recently, until Klopp, so that there was a continuity. And I've often thought about that in any kind of a job, that everybody has a lifespan, really, and you can do wonders at whatever job you're doing in life. But there comes a point where you have to move on. So, and it's a sad thing that it happens by, in fact, George Graham was being interviewed. I watched the thing today when he first took over at Arsenal. He said that everything is written in the contract except the day that you get sacked. And he said, there's one thing for sure, you will get sacked, you know. So I would have thought, if you look at George Graham, I mean, it depends. I mean, Arsene Wenger, we all think, I think by common consent, he did about another 5 years too many, 4 or 5 years too many. And there comes a point where no matter how wonderful you are, and he was pulling FA Cups out of thin air with quite a weak squad, you know, and I've got no bad words about him. But it might have been better if he'd have left earlier. But I would have thought that unless a manager is turning the club round after, say, 4 years, then you have to start looking elsewhere. But do you know what? There's only so much room at the top of any league. And we don't just support our club because they're winning trophies. But my famous epithet is that I want my club to be there to win trophies, not to make money for a rich owner. But if they're trying their best and they're not succeeding, obviously I'm an Arsenal fella for life, and I'm going to keep going there and keep watching them. But what makes me feel disgruntled is when it becomes just a money game, and Abramovich is continually pumping money. There's nothing stopping him now, and it just spoils the game. It just makes you think, well, we aren't on a, I know technically we aren't on a level playing field because clubs can generate their own funds, and a big club like Arsenal can generate, when we don't have a pandemic, can generate a lot of money through the turnstiles. But it's not just about money, it's about your link with your neighbourhood. And there are plenty of fans who support clubs because they live in an unfashionable part of London, or they follow a club that doesn't often hit the heights. And I think, and that's good. Football's not just about, pumping money in and buying success, because that's not even interesting, you know.
James, what about you, James? I know you interview, players and managers. What do you think should be the lifespan of a manager at any one club?
Well, one thing I've learned is that timing is everything in football. Timing of a transfer, timing of going to a club, timing of accepting a certain job, and through the managers I've spoke to through the years, upon which there have been many, I remember something that Danny Cowley said to me, where he said that the longer that you stay at a club, you know exactly what you need in terms of personnel, in terms of personality, in terms of squad and character building. And then, obviously speaking to the likes of Graham Potter as well, when he was Ostersund's manager, and he harboured ambitions of getting Ostersund into the Champions League. That's what he wanted to do. He wasn't interested in moving. He, in particular, and his family were very happy and very content in Sweden at the time that I spoke to him. And then he's since gone on to manage Swansea and since gone on to manage Brighton. And like with players on this form as well, you can't plan a career. It's very naive to think that you can, because injuries can curtail new manager coming in, new regime coming in. I mean, you think about those young players today that Lampard has showed faith in. Will the next manager be showing faith in them as much as what Lampard did? And I think fans as well are also culpable. We have it in our own fan base where we're in January and Arsenal look odds on to sign Odegaard, but he plays in the same position as Smith Rowe. So a couple of weeks ago, when people were lauding Smith Rowe up to the heavens about him being one of our own and being a very special player, these are the same people that are tracking Odegaard's flight and saying Odegaard will be the new number 10. Well, they can't both play. So do you want to stunt Smith Rowe's growth again? If I'm Monaco and Arsenal do sign Odegaard on loan, I am on the phone to Arsenal to ask them to name their price for Smith Rowe. And if I'm Smith Rowe, I'm off. Because this is what I mean about a fan base where 2 weeks ago they are lauding a player, lauding Hale End, lauding our young players. But by the same token, as soon as a new name comes in, they're all over that new name. But they won't be able to tell you that Odegaard came on loan to Heerenveen here in the Netherlands. They won't be able to tell you that, because all they know is that he played for Real Madrid. That's all they know. But I spoke to a player, Lucas Baker, who, when I spoke to him, was playing for Mechelen in Belgium, and he was at Heerenveen when Odegaard came on loan. And he said that he'd been a professional footballer for many years, but when Odegaard came, he really was a level above what he was used to, and you could tell that something special was happening here. But I see a lot of people on Twitter as well divulging Odegaard's wages and the amount of the loan. And I spoke to a player today, and I'll elaborate more on it towards the end of our podcast today. I wouldn't dream of stating important information, personal information, regarding players and managers that I speak to. Your brother paid me a lovely compliment when we spoke last about I always look behind the footballer, about the human element, and that's what I try to do. And you see a lot of Arsenal fans and a lot of well-known writers on Twitter that will just go the other way. And I think to myself, maybe I'm a little bit too old-fashioned, but I stick with the values that have held me in good stead, and I will not overstep any lines, because I've got a reputation to uphold, and you're dealing with professionals. It's not about me. It's about their story, and there's a lot of football writers who think it's all about them. It's all about their likes, their retweets, and their clout, and I think that's a little bit short-sighted, in my opinion.
Yeah. The other news segment I actually want to talk about was in regards to Lucas Torreira, apparently, and there was some news that Arsenal are in the midst of trying to get him onto the box of AS Monaco. He's not happy at the Atleti. His game time has been quite limited under Diego Simeone, and there's some talk in La Nacional that the Arsenal are looking allegedly to try and get him away from the Atleti and onto AS Monaco. In addition to that, I remember I did a segment in regards to the same player, and Edu, in the interview, said that if Lucas is not happy where he is now, then we need to get him away from that place there, and maybe recall him back to Arsenal. How would you feel about having Lucas Torreira back at Arsenal, Terry?
No, I wouldn't. I tend to think he's what they call a small space player. He's got great skills, and he defends well. He's got a good pass on him. He does all the things you'd want a defensive or central midfielder to do. But the pace and the speed and the use of space in the EPL, I think, finds him out. Now, we bought him from an Italian club, if I remember rightly, and the Italian La Liga is famous for. Sorry, it's not called La Liga, is it?
Sampdoria.
Yeah, we got him from Sampdoria, and because their league is a lot slower. He looked a good player there, and he looked a good player for us until people worked out that he doesn't cover the ground as fast as maybe he should. And that's the only thing I have against him. He did get injured quite a lot for us, but he certainly knows how to tackle. But I would move him on. I think he's had his chance, and he doesn't look quite right for us. But do you know what? Arsenal have got to make big decisions now, because we've got these youth players coming through, and they've got to make decisions on these players and stop holding on to them when really if they've got any value in resale, it's now that they should be selling them. So I suspect between now and the end of the month, Torreira will go. I know there's one or two clubs, as you were saying, looking at him, and I wish him well. I think if he plays for a team that's in a league that doesn't use space and doesn't gallop around the pitch quite so much, I think he'll be a decent buy. But on the same thing, we've definitely got some players like Nketiah. We've got to make a decision. We've had him with us for a long time. Obviously, Chelsea didn't rate him enough to keep him, because he joined us when he was about 15 or 16, and we've now got Balogun knocking on the door, and somebody in the club or a group of them have got to sit down, stop being worried about letting players go. These things happen, and they've got to decide what the player's worth, sell them and invest. I think Klopp did that, and he did so well because he made a like a war chest of money. And but yeah, so I don't think Torreira will be back with us.
Yeah. James, for you, Torreira back at Arsenal?
Unlikely. Here is another example of that wonderful performance he had in the derby win under Unai Emery against Tottenham, where he scored a goal and was arguably man of the match. Again, Arsenal fans singing his praises, you know, one of our own, such an amazing player. And then fast forward to January 2021 and to use their phrases, get in a bin. And very short-sightedness from fans in particular. But Terry makes a great point. We have to, people at the club have to sit down and make harsh decisions. You know, we are a football club. We're not a charity. We're not a smokescreen for certain political affiliations or certain opinions. We're a football club, and that means that our daily bread is to make footballing decisions. But as I've said on this podcast many times before, until a new proactive hands-on owner comes in, as Terry has also advocated, until that day happens, I can't see any significant progress, unfortunately.
Arsenal, my Arsenal. Let's get into the live chat for the first time, and let's see who has joined us. Got Mark Dini. Good evening to you. Says hi, and good to see you all. Thank you, Mark, for that.
Hi, Mark.
I've got DWTT. Gary says a good day. Hey. Alex, Celtel, and James. So formal. Good day.
Hello.
Good day.
Hello.
Good day. The assembled has joined us. Good evening, panelists. Good evening to you.
Evening.
That's right. It was Tony Barton who took
Tony Barton. Yeah,
that's right. It. Yes. Yeah.
The cab driver.
Yeah. Ashley D, my first moderator, says a hey up Gooners, and a hey up to you as well, Ashley D. The Odegaard is pronounced like the U in Bern. Bern. Okay, Erdogan. I lived in Norway for a couple of years in Tromsø, famous for the young Norwegian lady that pulled on an Arsenal shirt on that White Hart Lane. Okay, thank you for that, Mark. Moving on. Does anyone believe Balogun will get on the bench for the Southampton game? James? He won't.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, James. Yeah. He's got some problems. Terry, what do you think?
While he's getting ready, I can answer that. I mean,
yeah.
I think we've seen enough of Nketiah to know that he doesn't really work for us. He hasn't got the physical presence in the box that Laka has, for instance. Balogun's a much bigger, stronger guy. He's slightly under 6 foot, I think, but he's for a young 19-year-old, he's built strongly and he's got massive self-belief. And I know that both Nketiah and Balogun have the same agent. Now, you've got to work this. If you're Edu, you've got to sit down with the agent and say, this is what I would say. I'm going to sell Eddie either now or in the summer window. But I want to give Balogun a shot, and I want you to talk to him, and I want you to say, look, I've cleared a space. We're gonna move Eddie on, and we're gonna give your lad a go in there and try and get it sorted. We've seen enough of Eddie. I think Eddie's a good player, but I don't think he's quite what we need in the way Arteta is setting up. So that's what I'd do. So the tricky thing is you've got the same agent for sort of both players, so you can't play one agent off against the other. To answer the question, is he liable to be on the bench? I'd really doubt it, but I hope so. Wouldn't that be a message? Wow, wouldn't that be that here's another young player that we're going to see if he can do it. And you know what? If we did, and he came off and scored a goal or two, then we've got another player coming through that is going to, and there's no doubt about it. The older players that have been around maybe too long are beginning to be shown up by the fervour and the drive and the sort of dynamism of the younger players. And so be it. So yes, I personally I'd have him on the bench, and I'd try and bring him on. But I don't think it's going to work like that. Managers tend to play safe. They're so scared of losing. They'll probably play very, very safe and keep Eddie around there somewhere.
Before I go to James, there's only 6 months left on his contract. Why is it Arsenal have allowed it to get to this stage without being definitive with the player? We're gonna extend his contract or we're not. 6 months left on his contract, and we still haven't decided what we're going to do.
It's like I was saying a little bit earlier. We've got to make these decisions, and they've got to be hard. They're hard decisions to make. But if you're looking at a player week in and week out, you've seen him since he was maybe 10, 11, 12, 13. You know what he's got. I've seen Ben Cottrell, and I love the stuff I see from him. Aziz is good as well, but Ben Cottrell stands out for me straight away. Wonderful player. Now, if they're looking at Balogun day in, day out, make a decision. And if you've got a contract that has only a year left, you either sell him or renegotiate the contract. And if you push it, it's bad management, isn't it? They've managed it badly. They aren't sure. It all becomes a panic, which is why Ozil got this massive fat contract. Aubameyang also, they weren't sure. Keep him there. Yeah. You know, are we going to sell him? And in the end, it's these chickens are coming home to roost. It's crass management, terribly bad management. Let's sort it out. It's naive, isn't it?
It's very naive.
Sorry, go on, Jay.
For the top level especially. And sorry about my technical mishap there. I did catch the question about Balogun, and we were offered £3 million by Sheffield United, and we turned that down. And now we're at risk of watching him leave for nothing. So again, bad management. Terry makes a great point about crass management. I think the people in those positions, I don't think they have the heart or the gumption to actually take that decision. I think they enjoy being in the role. I think they enjoy all the perks and all the first class travel and all the meetings and all the champagne and Skittles. But when it comes to the taking the decision, I think they're nowhere to be found. And we need to start to be really, really ruthless and make, if need be, unpopular decisions. We have some of our fan base that think that they are the ones that are calling the shots when they are not the ones calling the shots. At the top end of the club needs to be the one that calls the shots. But as I say, I just think we're going through the motions both on and off the pitch. When you look at someone like Aston Villa, who's learnt from their mistakes, invested well, and now look at them. When you look at someone like Leicester, who have got such amazing balance, a fantastic position, and yes, they had a tragedy with their owner, but the guy that's taken over the mantle has promised to safeguard the club, and he's done it in spades. And we could learn a lot from Leicester in particular. But unfortunately, we're in a position where it's as if some of the fan base, particularly the younger generation, they don't want to accept it's as if they're pushing against the dying of the light, where we know what we used to be, and it's great to remember what we were, but our standards are slowly slipping away. And until we start to accept certain things and put things in place, I think things are only going to start to decline further, unfortunately.
James, a quick question to you. So, do you think we should be looking at Leicester City or Liverpool as a blueprint going forward, with recruitment and getting the players of the right ilk at Arsenal? Which of those two clubs do you think Arsenal should be following as a blueprint?
Leicester. And I'm not talking about reputation, because a lot of people watching this now will automatically think, "Oh, don't be silly. We want to be Liverpool. We don't want to be Leicester." I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the approach. coach. I know for a fact that if Arsenal would have signed Pereira, Albrighton, Dennis Praet, Timothy Castagna, Yuri Tielemans, the Arsenal fans would have turned their noses up, saying Uzi is useless, Uzi is rubbish. But they're all excellent footballers that have all added something to Leicester City. Albrighton is a Premier League winner. Aubameyang, Ozil, Lacazette, they won't be doing that anytime soon. Ozil, no anymore. But in terms of a blueprint of looking after the football club, we don't need to rush anything. We are now in the midst of paying 1.8 million for a loan for a player who's not match fit. There's rumours that he's injured, and Arsenal are paying 1.8 million for his services and wanting to pay him £40,000 a week. Now, if that's not we're not learning from any mistakes, because back in August we paid 1.3 million for Runnison, and there's question marks for his future. So we do not know, in layman's terms, we do not know what we are doing. And until we have an owner who is hands-on and is proactive, I can't see those wins changing at all. And I know it might sound very, very oversimplified, but it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. We now have a talisman in Aubameyang who, we don't see him very often, and now he's the highest paid player at the club. He will be the next target for the fans that are only concentrating about the money. And as I've said on this podcast before, for me, we've just got to try to get through this season in one piece. That's all we've got to do, is try to get through this season in one piece. If we can win a trophy, then it's a bonus. But I see people advocating Champions League football and European football, and we're only 7 points off this one. They don't seem to take into account the other competitors that have multiple games in hand. They seem to forget all about that and just look at the points tally. And as I say, we need some extensive work done in the summer. In an ideal world, Kroenke would sell, and we'd have a football man and an Arsenal man coming in to literally build the club up brick by brick. But as I say, until a new ownership changes hands, I can't see any progression whatsoever. So forgive me if I can't get excited about potential signings or what can we do, because for me, it starts at the top. And until we change things at the very top with a different approach, we'll be having this conversation this time next year as well.
Trevor, did you want to
can I just add to that? I mean, we have spoken before that Leicester obviously have a recruitment team second to none. And when Steve Walsh, one of the team, was poached and went to Everton, he didn't do at all well because he was part of a team at Leicester. And everybody thought Steve Walsh, people who thought they knew how Leicester ticked, thought, let's get Steve Walsh. Well, it didn't work because he's part of a team. And it occurred to me, we have spoken before about the kind of backroom team that Arteta's got there. And who are they? And who's left after the sort of cull of so many staff and so many scouts? And I just happen to have here, I don't know if you can see that there. Can you see that there? That's the official handbook. And I've got a page here. And there's people here that we have heard and others we haven't heard. And there must be more. We've got the technical director, Edu. We've got the two guys that tend to stand alongside Arteta, which is Steve Round. He's always alongside him. And he's a first team coach who I've been told deals with motivation, those kind of things. Getting a good squad vibe, people working hard together. Then there's Albert Stuyvenberg, who's the first team coach who analyses. He's the numbers man. But then we've also got a guy called Carlos Cuestra. I hope I'm pronouncing his surname correctly. He's first team coach. I have no idea what his role is. There's this other guy. They all sound a bit Spanish. Miguel Molina. What does he do? I mean, he might be doing a wonderful job, but I have no idea. Then we've got Andreas Jordson, who I think is the set piece specialist that we brought over from Brentford.
Yeah.
And also, as we're obviously dipping into Brentford a lot, we've got Inaki Kenya Pavon, our goalkeeping coach, who only likes short goalkeepers. So goodness knows who else is left there. I was having a laugh with Alex there a while ago, and I did look up Matt Ryan. And I'm very pleased that we have a Matt Ryan, because it's an Irish surname and I've got Ryans back in my family. So as far as I'm concerned, he's my cousin that's playing for Arsenal now. But I looked him up, and of course we've gone from Martinez, who was between 6'4" and 6'5". We've gone from him to Leno, 6'3". Then we got Runarsson, 6'1.5", and now we got Matt Ryan, who's 6 foot. So I know it's funny, but we've only got to have 3 more goalkeepers, and I'm 5'8". I'm in there. Get me on there. Boots on, lads.
Listen, Gary comes up with a question here. The Chelsea owner / management saw a problem and fixed it. Does Arsenal owner / management see a problem?
Well, do you know what I think happened at the Southampton match? I think there's a lot more flashing backwards and forwards across the Atlantic than we probably guess. He's definitely not hands-on, but he's the one, Stanley Kroenke, he inspired the 20% wage cut, and we are the only club to have actually done that, interestingly enough, which got a lot of players' backs up. But I wonder if, thinking of the way this guy thinks in terms of money, he's already gone to the Bank of England, and got a massive loan. And he would have looked at, if he has any input at all, and I suspect this, he might have said to Arteta, off the record, I want Champions League football next season. Now, if you get that by finishing 4th, or you win the Europa League, I don't mind. But I want you to show me that you're either going to get it or be very, very close to. Now, if that, and that makes sense, because he's thinking money-wise. He needs the big money of Champions League football. Personally, I don't know what you guys think, but having worked hard all day and gone down to watch Arsenal on a Wednesday evening on a Champions League match, and it's freezing cold, and we're playing in the round robin thing in the league, we're playing teams I've never heard of, you know, and we sort of either roll over them or have real trouble scoring a goal. And then by the time we've done all of that and we get through to the good teams, the Atletis, the Barcelonas, we have all our little flags and bags that they sort of leave on our seats, and Arsenal go and lose. Well, I mean, so it's not doing anything for me. I suppose it's nice to see some famous teams play Arsenal, but I would much rather an FA Cup, thank you very much, even if it doesn't get you into the Champions League. But looking at it from Stanley Kroenke's point of view, I really, really suspect he's very gently whispered into Arteta's ear, I want Champions League football. That's what I want. I don't mind how you get it, but I want you to either get it or be very, very close. And if somebody's whispering that in your ear, then you may well look at the Southampton match and weigh everything else up and think, I'm going to rotate. And as everybody said, he over-rotated. Yes, he did need to rotate, and that's the name of the game. But I think he rotated 6 or 7 players, and it was a mess. And having said that, if Ober had played, we might well have won. So unfortunately, he's got difficulties at home. But so it's only little things like that. I personally think, if you're predicting tomorrow, I think Arsenal are going to win it. I really do. I think it's going to be close, but I think it's going to be an Arsenal win. Only by a goal, and it could be a 2-1. Keep it up, Pete. And they've got a new goalkeeper. He's 5'5". He's really good. He's only a little lad.
James. Chelsea owner management saw a problem and fixed it. Does Arsenal management owner see a problem?
Well, they're two completely different models. There's two completely different models, and I'm going to repeat what Terry said a couple of weeks ago. That Kroenke's waiting on a European Super League, and I firmly believe that. I think that's what he's waiting for, and that's why he'll hold on to the club. And I don't even think he views it as a problem. I think he views it. He's got people in place, and they do the job. I don't think he cares if we win, lose, or draw. It's just a healthy investment for him. And when you look at his other sporting franchises, apart from the LA Rams, but they've all kind of fallen into mediocrity. And obviously, he cares about the LA Rams, but we're just going through the motions, unfortunately. And I wanted to pick out two things with the backroom staff. Albert Stauvenberg, he had a spell managing, I believe it was Gent in Belgium, and that didn't really work out very well for him. And Inaki Cañas, I interviewed a player once who worked under him when he worked when he played in Denmark, and he was saying that his goalkeeping drills are very, very interesting, and he always communicates with the goalkeepers, and he always has them thinking. So maybe there's other reasons as to why they're in the positions they're in. But I look at the Emirates and Arsenal now in the position we find ourselves in, and Terry talks about Champions League and seeing those wonderful teams, but I didn't enjoy seeing Arsenal lose to Monaco. I didn't enjoy see us losing to Ostersund in the Europa League, or the absolute audacity to suggest that Rennes are just a pub team, or that Vitória Guimarães are just a pub team. If you know your onions, you know that Rennes have made exceptional strides both on and off the pitch. You know that Guimarães, apart from the big three in Portugal, together with Braga, have made tremendous progress. And I believe that our upcoming European games, home and away to Benfica, will be our last European games for some time. And I don't particularly think it's going to be a bad thing, because we've been in Europe for nigh on 20 years. And I'd like to think that for maybe 12 to 13 years, we've literally just taken it for granted. And I've never done that, because, I'm also an Arsenal fan and a European football fan, flying all the way back from Amsterdam to watch them play Barty Borisov, or to watch them play Ostersund. People used to look at me as if I was an alien, but I did it because I wanted to do it. But I really do believe that our next two European matches will be our last for some time.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Martini says that it's one thing we can be proud of as Arsenal fans, is that when we have won stuff, it's never been because we brought it. We've never brought a cup for. Yeah. Is that true? Can we say that? Can we be proud of that?
Well, I mean, you've got to be careful, because clubs do have to buy players, and I suppose if you're saying it was the money self-generated, yes. So we've won it because we've self-generated and bought some. And over the years, we have paid, the British record fee for Malcolm McDonald and so on, different players. So we have paid big money, but it's been self-generated money. What we haven't got is this shady stuff that's going on where, and it's always been big finance. It always happens. And when you're talking about billionaires, you're talking about a lot of big finance. And now that financial fair play seems to have been booted out, then it's fair game. And if you've got an owner whose hobby, which it seems Abramovich's hobby, is Chelsea, well, then he's going to find ways of buying players. There was a period about 2 or 3 years ago where they had so many players out on loan. It was crazy. So they just basically bought up every good centre-back, every good midfielder, and just sort of loaned them out, which was crazy. But that's what can happen if you've got a club that is run by a sugar daddy, if you like, someone who just pumps their own cash into it. But again, what the money he's pumping in is nothing compared to the amount of money he actually has. It's just pennies, really. Well, it's not pennies, but but it just spoils the game. Do you know what makes all good sport? And it's when the teams are fairly evenly matched. That's what makes great sport. Hence boxing. They do it in different weights, because there's no point in putting in a big guy trying to fight a bantamweight. But when you get teams that are fairly evenly matched, the game's fascinating to sort of go to, and it spoils the sport of it. The sport has gone when you've got a club that, by and large, is going to be able to outbid everybody. What did Wenger say? we say 1 million and Chelsea say 2 million. Whatever we offer for a player, Chelsea just increases it, and that spoils, to me, the sort of challenge of the sport.
Mm-hmm. Bronze Dosser goes on to say that between 1986 and 2018, 3 managers at Arsenal. We used to laugh at teams firing managers in Europe. Odegaard could be like Vieira, Henry, or Bergkamp, a player coming from a big club looking for a new home. James? So I don't know. I've never heard of Martin Odegaard before a few days ago. Never heard of him.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, it was Slabosay, the Hungarian. A couple of weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, it was Julian Brandt of Dortmund, and now it's Odegaard. As I say, I can only go from my own experience, having spoken to a player who played alongside Odegaard and spoke about his experiences. In the case of Bergkamp and Vieira never played for Milan. I think he was involved in training, but I don't think he played for Milan. And I think Wenger scouted him when he was playing for Cannes. And in the case of Bergkamp, he was very unhappy in Italy, especially with a press intrusion. Extremely unhappy, and he was extremely professional, but unhappy and wanted the move. And as I say, I just think it's in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be talking about somebody else. As soon as the transfer window closes, they'll be looking at targets for the summer. And they'll say things like, oh, we've got to sign him. He would be amazing. He would change our fortunes. The fact remains is that our owner has just applied for a £120 million loan. And we've just paid our star midfielder a payoff of £7 million. That is the current situation that Arsenal Football Club find themselves in. Now, when I started supporting this club, and we had an amazing team of the 1990-91 season with the likes of Lampard, Merson, Smith, Campbell, Adams, Bold, Winterburn, Seaman, Rocky Rocastle, you would have never have thought in a million years that 30 years from now, Arsenal pay their most expensive player to leave the club and they apply for an emergency loan. So it just goes to show the sign of the times and how this club is slowly slipping away from the immense high standards that we used to have. People talk about Arsene Wenger and how he changed the club, George Graham and how he changed the club. They are the 2 managers, along with the caretakers in Stuart Houston and Pat Rice, and also Unai Emery, of course, and now Mikel Arteta, that I've experienced. But I'll just bring it back to a man before my time. We wouldn't be in the position we are today if it wasn't for Herbert Chapman. And what would Herbert Chapman think about the club now? If someone was to tell him, I know it's a hypothetical situation, but if someone was to tell him what Arsenal has become, I think he would turn in his grave. Really, I do. And we've got a lot of soul searching to do, starting with the summer. We really have. We've got an awful lot of soul searching to do.
First Step says high latex. You mean hi Alex, not high latex. and Panis. That's made my day, latex.
The perils of typing too quickly.
Yeah.
The perils of typing too quickly.
This is the 4th day and my 4th request that Mustafi must go now. Can you decree it? Can you decree it?
I will decree it, and I'll insist he's clothed in spandex as he's going. Yes, to get back to the serious world of latex and spandex. When we bought Mustafi, we made the massive mistake of buying him on a stat DNA recommendation. And as I think I said before, we obviously, whoever was sent to see him was watching him with eyes wide shut, because Everton knew he wasn't a centre back, and they tried him at right back when he was a young player. That didn't work. And if you think of him at right back, there's actually a painted white line, which means there's 180 degrees on his right that the player can't go past him. So he's only got to worry about the 880 degrees on his left-hand side. But even that doesn't help. He's let us down so many times. I mean, he doesn't do it on purpose. He just isn't up to Arsenal standard. But we didn't bite the bullet. And I'm worried in terms of Willian now that we're not biting the bullet early enough. And we're not saying, look, Arsenal are seeing him training day in, day out. We're not seeing it on the pitch. Now, unless he's got something going on at home that none of us know about, we've done it. We've gone wrong. It's a mistake. Now, I would own up in my job, but I don't know what it's like to be, a manager of Arsenal. Is there a scenario where if you owned up to wasting Stanley Kroenke's money, you suddenly disappear? I don't know. But, only joking. But I don't know. We've all seen it, and he doesn't look happy. He probably feels it himself. And Arteta has said that he'll do his best to support him and all of that. Well, yes, but we've tried that with Mustafi, and we've tried not sort of roaring and screaming at him too much and allowing him to, I mean, he's had some good games and so on, and he's got a certain, he recovers well, but the trouble is he's got himself into trouble before he has to start doing a recovery tackle. So yes, I mean, I can't see why they'd possibly keep him. I mean, I don't rate Chambers either, actually, but Arteta is raving about him and saying he's doing well. So if we've got Chambers, surely we've got enough. I mean, sometimes when I can't sleep, I lie in bed and I'll start thinking, let me check. Right, we've got 2 right backs, we've got 4 centre backs. We don't need 5. We don't need 6. What we do need is a left back. Badly, we can't keep playing Tierney. But as we said earlier, we now seem to have a carbon copy or very similar player to Emile Smith-Rowe that's just about to come into the club. He plays all right. He's left-footed, but he plays on that right side of midfield. So I do hope they aren't going to start changing this guy. If he's famous for playing on the right and he's like an inverted player, then I hope they're not going to do what they've done with Pepe and change him. Because Pepe, when I've seen footage, he's wonderful in the inside right position in that it's called a half space, isn't it? But you knock him out by the sidelines and he's useless. He doesn't know how to receive the ball. He can't receive it with his back to goal. You can't start changing players. If you're going to bring people in, let them play the way they're actually good at playing, So yes, Mustafi should go. We should get his. I know he's been paid good wages, so we should get him off the wage bill. And do you know what? If all we need to do now is sign a left back, some sort of replacement left back, and then I would focus the rest of the transfer window in clearing as much of the dead wood as possible. Definitely Mustafi.
It's funny you should say that because Levan J just says that. He says, "What go on, Alex? It's good to see that we're getting another piece of deadwood out, Mustafi. Hopefully we'll get a backup left back and then it would be a very decent transfer window." Not so sure about decent, but anyway, I digress.
But you know what, Alex? The thing is, if we're all seeing this, all of us fans are seeing this, it must be obvious to Arteta. And it's been obvious for a long time now that we haven't got. I mean, we all knew that Kolasinac wasn't good enough. We've known that for 2 or 3 years, and we've trundled on with him, So let's make some big decisions. My brother-in-law, who's a businessman, always has this phrase, and he said, "No decision is worse than the wrong decision." And I said to me, explain that to me. He said, it's people who sit on the fence and they're not sure this, should we do that, should we do this? And they do nothing. That's a disaster. In business, look at the situation, analyze it, bring all your skills to your decision making, but make that decision. And occasionally it will go wrong, but at least you've made a decision. And we must be past masters for sitting on the fence. As we said, there are 4, 5, 6 players that we've allowed to run down their contract. Aaron Ramsey, what we could have got for him. what we could have got for him if we'd have sold him. A phenomenal player, doing well at Juve. We could have got big money for him, but we didn't. We held on. Oh, he might sign. And we've had a history of this going back a long time, long before Arteta. And I absolutely agree. Get the Deadwood out, get Mustafi out, and get a few more others as well. It'd be funny if they could spin it round so that Willian leaves us. I mean, in the next few days, wouldn't it be wonderful? And he might start smiling. He might be happy. You know, trying to make him happy.
James Rowe, my G, our sports analyst from Mahir on
Hello.
Arsenal Fans Circle. James.
Hey, good man.
Hello, Mahir. I just wanted to elaborate on a couple of things. I did an interview a couple of months ago with Nathan Craig. Nathan Craig was together with Mustafi in the Everton youth setup. Nathan Craig went on to play for Carnarvon Town. Mustafi went on to play for Valencia and Arsenal, and obviously Everton in between. Terry makes a great point about, letting contracts run down. Robin van Persie gave a Dutch view on a podcast where Van Persie was confronted with Gazidis, literally showing him stats, pie charts, and timetables at the healthy finances of the club. And Van Persie said to him, "I'm not interested in that. I'm a footballer. I want to win things. I'm not interested in your pie charts and in your statistics." And you imagine a technical director, CEO of a club, showing the star striker, "See, come and have a look at this pie chart. Come and have a look at this diagram. It shows that we're making progress." Our board is very self-serving. I mean, do they care that Ramsey went for nothing? Terry makes a great point about how much money we could have got for him. We're now in the position as Arsenal Football Club where we are paying people to leave. We paid Ozil to leave. Mustafi will be next. We'll be paying others to leave as well. If that's not a sign of the club not being run properly, I don't know what is. Because if you're setting a precedent where you pay people to leave, those same players that took a 20% pay cut will think, well, hang on a minute, I want to get something back for that, so I want to get some money. So they're all going to do it. So they've now set a precedent. They've now set a precedent where one player can sit on their hands and not do anything, and they will get a huge, massive lump sum a la Mesut Ozil. So it's an amazing precedent we've set. And, it's slowly turning into a progressing nightmare, really. And until something disastrous happens, I don't think people will realise the extent of it. But until such time, they will console themselves with potential Champions League football and the next best thing to come off the conveyor belt will, in terms of Odegaard, and as I say, I've spoken to someone who played with him. If he's not good enough for Real Madrid, what makes him good enough for Arsenal? But therein lies the question. Real Madrid are the biggest club in the world. Real Madrid are the most well-known branded football club in the world. If Odegaard is not good enough for them, what makes him good enough for Arsenal? But he must be amazing, so therefore we've got to sign him. We can't stockpile players. We seem to have a fan base where they don't really understand the ins and outs. Thankfully, the older generation do. But we've got a full lot of soul searching to do in the summer. And it's just, as I repeat again, for me, it's just about, it doesn't matter who we sign, who we don't sign, who we don't get rid of, who we do get rid of. It's just about getting through the season in one piece. And then in the summer, if you have to work 24 hours a day, then you work 24 hours a day and you get a ship shape for the 2021-22 season.
Ah, dearie me. We're done. The hour's gone very, very quick again. Well, 58 minutes anyway, at least. James, do you want to tell us very quickly about any up and coming interviews you've got coming release?
Yes. I had a very interesting day today, obviously with the Benfica match coming up. I spoke today with Chloe Lacasse, who is a player of the Benfica women's team. And it was really interesting to hear about what it is to play for Benfica and how the club is run and the ambition that the club has, especially on the women's side of things. Tomorrow I will speak to Pat Nevin, who Chelsea fans may well remember, among others. And upcoming publications would include Thomas Berlich, the former manager of Midtjylland, now managing Randers in Denmark, Jason Cundy, formerly of Chelsea and Tottenham, and also Nicholas Hassler of Swiss club FC Thun. So a real mix coming up, and onwards and upwards, as I say.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Elto, I'm going to put this question to you. Actually, it's about goalkeeping, and this comment comes from, if I can find it again, where is it? Jamie McDermott, who says, "Do you think with our recent goalkeeping acquisitions, we've been sold short?" Now, is there a joke in there? Is there a joke somewhere there?
It is odd. I know you spoke earlier about Inaki Kana and his drills and so on. And funny enough, when I was a little fella, my dad was friendly with an Irish guy who was a Leyton Orient ex-goalkeeper, and he was coaching there as well. And he used to take me over the park and run me through the drills. And so many of the drills are about being able to get down quickly to your left or right. And there's no doubt about it that Inaki obviously sees that as a key skill. And in fact, in the match against Southampton, Leno did a fantastic save where he had to get down really fast and save the ball. So obviously that is a key skill. But we've certainly, I think we let Emi Martinez go not only too soon, but I think we let him go too cheaply. I think we got 20 million for him. Runarsson, that everything you read about that sounds wrong. Apparently they say they were rushed into it by Emi Martinez wanting to leave. Well, I'm sorry, he's under contract. We could easily have said to him, look, we want you to be happy. Can you give us until the January transfer window to make a final decision? We could easily have done that. Instead, we sold him to the first bidder, as far as I know. And then they said Arteta said to Inaki Kana, have you got a good goalkeeper in mind? And they couldn't get a guy called David Raya, who plays for Brentford, where Inaki was the coach. So Inaki happened to know this Icelandic goalkeeper who, although he looks very young, he's actually 25. He looks about 19 or something. And he plumped for him. And they've obviously, I mean, we've only seen him play on the pitch. Obviously, the backroom team have seen him in training. He looked pretty awful just seeing him on the pitch. And we paid, I forget how much we paid for him, but it certainly wasn't pennies.
1.3 million pounds.
Yeah, so we've taken a gamble.
1.3 million.
Yeah, I mean, it worries me that we've got one of the best teams in the UK, one of the best teams in Europe, and we're taking quick gambles. Oh, we didn't have much time. What? Surely you're sitting there all the time making sure that if your goalkeeper gets injured and your second goalkeeper gets injured, you've got a player in mind. You look at. I mean, I know they do look at the finances of the clubs they're trying to buy from, so that you're buying from a position of strength. But they seem to have bought this Icelandic chap in a kind of a panic. Well, is our scouting that poor that we buy people in panic and then rue in sort of leisure? And now they've found this guy, as I say, that's shorter than the previous two guys, and we're working our way down. So we have been sold short. There's something wrong with the way Inaki obviously has Arteta's ear. They're both friends, both Spanish. I'm sure they're great mates, and they go. They're part of a PAL network. But if I were Arteta, I'd be thinking, well, if this guy keeps sending me, excuse the French, bum steers, there's got to be a point at which I say, Inaki, tell you what, I'll find a goalkeeper and you just train them. And we have been sold short. Yeah.
And that's it, guys. That's it. We really have come to an end. And before I wrap up this one, I'll say a big thank you, as always, James. Insightfulness, give me a footballing lesson. Yeah, back in class.
Thank you very much.
Top quality,
James.
Very much. Top quality.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much indeed. And onwards and upwards, as I say. If I could just say one final thing before we go. The venison. Dijon are famous for mustard. And we went out and signed the goalkeeper for Dijon So good enough for Dijon, therefore means good enough for Arsenal. And Terry makes a great point about Arteta obviously giving Inaki Kanyas the time of day, but is he just trying to help out a mate then? Because a penny for Matt Macy's thoughts. Matt Macy's ready to go, had a good loan period at Plymouth Argyle, and Arsenal go out and spend 1.3 million. 1.3 million on Runnison, 1.8 million on Odegaard, that's 3.1 million, up in smoke. But that's all right. We're all in the middle of a worldwide pandemic and we're all going to be all right, aren't we? So as I say, until we start learning our lessons and accepting and admitting where we've gone wrong, I really can't see any significant progress. But, you know, the club remains fond, remains special in all our hearts. And, you know, one day things will get better.
Yeah. Original Godfather.
Hey.
Hey.
Cheers. See you guys.
Cheers. I will be back.
Sorry.
No, go on, Tel. Go on, sorry.
I was just going to say we haven't mentioned the match that are coming up against Southampton again. So I don't know if people want to do predictions, but I'm predicting a narrow win.
Sorry, Can I take the Fifth Amendment on this one, Tel?
You can.
Thank you. So we are done and dusted. I will be back tomorrow doing a post-game reaction because, like what your Godfather says, we're back in action against who? The Saints again. Yeah. When the Saints. Anyway, guys. Make sure you subscribe to Canafoy TV. If this is the first time, make sure it's not the last time, please. So you can be part of this bigger community here on this wonderful platform, which is what is it? It's Cannon Fodder. Yeah, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this one. And have a very, very good